Hello everyone, this is My Africa Show hosted to you by Tsagabilai. My Africa Show is a show basically designed to create this free stage where we all will explain our own thoughts and ideas that we have about our Africa. It can be economy or politics. At the same time, it can be all these thoughts and ideas that we have about our continent and at the same time country. So this first episode is going to be about what I personally really admire about my continent, Africa. As the show name implies, it's something that we personally share. So one of the things that I personally think of Africa when I first entertained the idea is civilization. So Africa has a very large and condensed civilization history throughout the world. And when I think of civilization, the first country that comes to my mind is Egypt, and I feel like most of us really share that thought. So when we come to Egypt civilization, it started around 3100 BC or before Christ, and the Egyptian civilization basically had three phases, which was the Old Kingdom, the Middle, and the New Kingdom. So what I really want you guys to really understand here is how we are all interconnected through even our civilizations. So basically the Old Kingdom is where Egypt was very economically strong and politically stable, and at the same time a lot of pyramids were built for for the kings or for the pharaohs. So that was how the Old Kingdom was characterized by. And the Middle Kingdom was basically known for its co-regency, which means that the kings or the pharaohs would just randomly choose a man, most probably their son, to just guide them through for them to kind of practice what power is, so that in case of emergency or if the pharaohs die, they would be able to practice the power and rule their people. So that's what the Middle Kingdom was, or the Middle period was characterized by. So the third one was Old Kingdom. The old one was really funny because that's where Egypt just like blasted, and basically Egypt started to control large territories and started to strengthen her trade networks. And at the same time, a lot of monumentals were built at that time for the pleasure of the kings, and at the same time for the gods. And at the time, they had over like 2,000 god and goddesses, which shows how Egyptians had their spiritual things. And from my homeland civilization, one of the Ethiopian civilizations that is well known is the Kingdom of Aksum. So basically the Kingdom of Aksum was well known by its territorial expansion and the controlling of trade routes that connected the Roman Empire with the Middle East and India. So that was the basic strength, or that was the basic reason for the power of the Kingdom of Aksum. And at the same time, Kingdom of Aksum was the first African country that minted its first coin in silver, bronze, and at the same time gold. And that's a very huge significance and a very huge evidence that Kingdom of Aksum was very powerful at the time. And one of the things that we really don't understand and really take for granted for is that the current farming system and irrigation techniques came from back to Kingdom of Aksum, and to which we still use at this present time. And the other civilization that pops up in my mind is the civilization of Mali, which I really admire. It started around 13th century. Mali still now is well known for the deposit of gold and salt, and had a very strong trade networks, and at the time really had a very good development of education. And still, one of the empires of the Mali is the city of Timbuktu, which is a hub for Islamic learning and a place for knowledge. That's a really amazing thing to have. So the other thing that I really want to mention about the civilization of Mali is the largest in the world, like throughout the world, the largest mud brick building is found there in Mali. So I feel like we should really value that thing. So these are the things that really pops up in my mind when it comes to the civilization of Africa. The other thing that I really love from my Africa is our own philosophies. We have our own philosophies, especially when it comes to philosophy. We really don't think Africa has our own philosophers at the time. We still do have philosophers, and that really discourages the current philosophers and disgrants the previous philosophers. So one of the most well-known philosophies are Ubuntu. So Ubuntu it's a Nagani Bantu term, which basically means humanity. It means humanity. So the basic concept of Ubuntu is that each person is interconnected and is interdependent to one another. So we can't really live alone. I am dependent to my neighbors, my families, my friends, and my friends and my families and my neighbors are dependent on me at the same time. So it basically says that everything is interconnected and interdependent for mutual benefits. So society shapes humanity, or society shapes humans, because everything is connected. That's the basic core. And one of the other things that I really want to say about Ubuntu is it's found under 3 pillars, which is the interpersonal, intrapersonal, and the environmental values. These are the 3 basic pillars. And the value is obviously respect, dignity, humanness, and acceptance, because in order for us to really understand that we are independent, we are interdependent, we have to be aware of ourselves, and that how life works basically. So that's the concept of Ubuntu philosophy, which is a very still now to this day people actually really practice in different forms this philosophy. They actually practice it in their daily lives and daily basis. The other thing that I really comes to my mind when I think about my Africa is, there's a lot of things actually, but it's music, because music it's the way to the emotional mind, right? It's what makes us who we are somehow, and it's how we relate to one another, because even like 2 different peoples can have these common things when it comes to music, because it's another way of expressing ourselves. So the basic things, or the basic musics that we usually, especially at this current time, that we have is the first one to mention is Ethio jazz. Ethio jazz is really amazing, and I feel like it's something that really touched the soul. It really touched the soul. So Ethio jazz is basically a blend of jazz with Ethiopian culture, Ethiopian taste and color and tone and everything like that, which was first revolutionized by Mulatu Astatke around 1950s. And Ethio jazz is basically, we use instruments like trumpets, and then saxophones and instruments like that. So most people, especially personally, I really love jazz, and most people ask me, like, what's the purpose of listening to jazz? It doesn't have no meanings. But no, jazz, the main purpose or the benefit of jazz is it helps you to be relaxed. And when someone is relaxed, they be able to think something new. And that thing they think is really powerful, because people should really start thinking when they're relaxed. And it's one form of therapy, one form of meditation, one form to really be creative. And at the same time, it helps us to discover and to bring back this, like past melodies that are like gone, to this modern way in which this current generation can really cope up with and relate with. It's like, this generation usually think jazz is boring, but no, it can be modern at the same time. And it's a means to discover and cement past melodies that we Ethiopians have. The other music that I really enjoy is Amapiano. So yeah, yes, we have to mention that. I feel like it's one of the most amazing musics that we have as an Africans. So it's basically first originated in South Africa by MFR Souls, yes. And one of the things that makes Amapiano really different is that it's a gateway to really express our daily struggles and our daily enjoyments that we have. It's something that people really connect, and I feel like that's one of the basic reasons why it's now heard like throughout the world, because it's something that everyone shares with, because it's a gateway, as I've said earlier. It's a gateway especially for South African youth to which they express themselves, their everyday struggles, their everyday enjoyments through music, which is a very beautiful thing. And the next one is Afrobeat. Afrobeats basically originated in Nigeria, so it's a music that has basically African elements, which makes it more traditional at the same time modern. And the other thing that I really want to mention about Afrobeats is Afrobeats started to compete into the international market is because it has this African melodies, just like and like past melodies, just like hip hop and dance halls that are being forgotten nowadays. And those melodies are now fused and embedded with this current African styles like Afro jazz, Latin jazz, and so on, making it really familiar. At the same time, anybody can just listen to that and say, oh, this is like an African sound, which makes it more suitable. And one of the really biggest things that we should really admire about Afrobeats is that it has this free chances and free thing. We can change it, we can shift it, we can have our own color for it. It depends on our creativity, which makes the market more wide for Africa. So this is what I really admire and love about my Africa. And I hope you guys are watching this and saying, no, my Africa is this, my Africa has that. And it really means a lot for you guys to share us your ideas, because that's the main purpose of this show, My Africa. Let us know what you think and what your Africa has on our short SMAs 6121. And till next, goodbye.